Sometimes bugs are not visually evident in your application. They're not always related to a non-working button or an incorrectly linked item in your menu. Sometimes to find a bug, you have to dig deep into your application state. With OpenReplay, you can track and capture the state lifecycle across your user sessions and then inspect it after every action. We have plugins for all major state management libraries, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can track your state when you're using Redux as your state manager. So let's go. To showcase how to use the Redux plugin, I'm going to use it on top of this fake e-commerce site that I have working. This site is built with Next and is already using Redux to capture this set of makeup products that you're seeing on screen. We get those through a store action and we store it inside the state. Here you can see the code for that process. On the index of the site, we're actually starting the tracker and then dispatching the get makeup product function, which is the action from the Redux store. You can see here that the action is simply getting a set of products from an external API, then creating the product object in the correct format, and then dispatching a get products action with the payload of the product. And the get product action is simply adding that payload into the state inside the makeup products variable, which we then use it back again on the index page to iterate over and render the actual makeup products. We can see here in OpenReplay that we're already capturing because the tracker is already working. And if you look at when the makeup products appear on screen, you'll see that the state tab has no content. That means that while we are already tracking the user's action on our website, the actual content of the state is not being tracked. So since we want to start tracking the content of our state, the first thing that we have to do is to install the trackers plugin, specifically the one meant for Redux. We can do that with a simple line. And now with the plugin installed, we're going to go to the _app.tsx file where the application starts, and we're going to add the plugin configuration into our tracker provider. This tracker provider is created specifically for this application, but it essentially is a context provider using React to make sure that we have all the methods and the tracker itself available within the whole component hierarchy. The config property of our provider accepts a plugin array, and that plugins array will contain all the plugins that we want to use with the tracker. For every plugin, it will call the use method of the tracker with the actual plugin function as a parameter. The resulting value of those executions will be stored on a separate variable that we're going to be using as part of the context farther down the hierarchy. You can optionally also pass a config attribute to each plugin. And if you want to know exactly what kind of configuration options does this particular Redux plugin has, visit the documentation site and you have all the details there. If you want to know exactly how to create this tracker provider, check out the tutorial on our documentation on how to use the tracker within a Next.js project. Next, we're going to go to the context.tsx file, which contains the managed UI context. This context is part of the whole UI and it handles when to show certain aspects of it and when to hide them. We already have a use effect callback here because we're already instantiating the tracker and setting up the store with the create Redux store function. What I'm going to do next is checking it from the tracker context. I'm going to also export the plugin's return values, which contains, in this case, the result of setting up the plugin for the tracker, which in the case of this plugin, it's going to be a middleware that we have to use when we're creating the Redux store. Now that we have everything ready, the last thing we have to do is update the create Redux store function so that it actually takes in the middleware that we pass it and use it as part of the process of creating the store. So we'll just update the code to create a new array that combines the thunk that is mandatory for Redux and our wrapper, and simply pass it as parameters for the apply middleware function. And with this ready, we can now make sure that we pass an array on the create Redux store function. We can now start testing the application and review on OpenReplay the look of our state. Once in OpenReplay, you can see within the replay that the all state tab is replaced by a specific Redux tab showing the content of the store as well as the actions that are performed on it. You see that the makeup products store contains all the products that we store on it, and the get product has the payload that we passed as parameter as well. And that's it. Tracking your state with OpenReplay is very easy. Remember, you first have to install the trackers plugin and then use the trackers use method with the plugin. The resulting value will be a function that you can then use as a middleware when you're creating the Redux store. And that's it. If you have any issues setting up the Redux plugin or any other plugin really, reach out to us on our Slack channel with the link in the description below, and we'll be more than happy to give you a hand. Until then, see you in the next one.